Hey guys, welcome back. Gary Simmons here for the Game Institute with Lesson 2 in the Dead Earth game development series. This is going to be a really light lesson, not a very big one, and we're just going to make sure that everyone is on the same page moving forward. We're going to see how we can create our project, create a few folders in that project so that we've got some rough project organization going forward, and we're also going to look at how we can bring in a version of the standard assets that work even in the latest versions of Unity. Now, for those of you that have used Unity before, and that should be everybody watching this video, because like I said in the last video, you really shouldn't be taking the Dead Earth course if you have no prior Unity experience. So I'm sure many of you will remember that right up till, I don't know, version 2018, when you installed Unity, it also came with a very useful pack of assets, scripts, prototyping building blocks, and prefabs, things like FPS controllers that just worked out of the box, that were really great for fast prototyping of game ideas. In 2018, Unity discontinued support for that. And in fact, if you go on Unity's asset store now and you download the standard assets and try and import them into, let's say, 2021, you'll just get a load of script errors. So what I've done is I've downloaded the assets and I've fixed all of those script errors. I've removed some of the scripts that I know we're not going to need, and I've uploaded them onto the Game Institute website so that even if you ignore my advice and don't install 2018, but you install 2021, for example, those standard assets will work and you'll be able to follow along with the course just fine. The other reason for this video is just to show you how to install Unity, because if you haven't used Unity for a few years, maybe since Unity 5, then the way that the install happens is slightly different. We used to have to come to the website, we'd get a big list of all the available Unity versions that have ever existed since the dawn of time, and then we would have to choose which one we wanted to install and where we want to install it on our hard drive and all that sort of stuff. And in fact, if you wanted to install multiple versions of Unity, you had to be very careful during the installation procedure that you installed them in different folders, or otherwise it would overwrite the previous version. So Unity have fixed that by changing the install procedure so that instead of installing Unity from their website, you install a desktop application called Unity Hub. And Unity Hub allows you to easily install multiple versions of Unity side by side, and then allows you to assign the projects you're working on to the versions of Unity you've got installed. So when you open up a project, it automatically knows which version of Unity you wish to load. And that's very useful because you're often going to be working on several projects at the same time, and they won't all be your new latest projects. Sometimes you'll be doing code maintenance for a project that might be a few years old. That project might be in Unity 5 or Unity 2017. You're going to need access to those too. And the other reason why you want to install older versions of Unity is because if you find a really cool tutorial or a really good book on game development, but you need, let's say, Unity 5 to install it, and maybe, if you try upgrading it to 2018, it doesn't work. You don't want to dismiss that. You want to install Unity 5, get in there and examine the project. And then once you understand it, you can always upgrade it to the latest version if you want to. We're on the unity.com website, so we click the Get Started button, and we need to click the individual tab. I'm assuming you're not a company that is earning more than 100k revenue. If so, you need to sign up to one of the paid plans, but if you click the individual tab, I'm going to assume that you're a personal user where you get to install Unity for free. Like I said, assuming that you have revenue or funding less than 100k in the last 12 months, and we're going to click on the Get Started button. Now, it was here that in the olden days, we used to see a list of all of the versions of Unity, and we'd have to choose which one we would install. Now we just need to install Unity Hub, and there's two ways we can do that. If you're a first-time user, you can click here, and if you're a returning user, which you should be if you're following this course, you click here. So I think the version of the hub that gets installed, if you click here, contains some tutorials and some learner content. We're not going to do that. We're going to go here because we're already experienced with Unity. I'm going to click the little tick box that says I am eligible to use the Unity personal license. I'm not a company earning more than 100k revenue. And then I'm going to click this button to download Unity Hub. And after a few seconds, we should see in the bottom left corner of your browser, the Unity Hub setup.exe is downloading. Once that's downloading, double click it, and that will install Unity Hub automatically for you. I'm going to cancel out of this because I've got Unity Hub installed already. So once Unity Hub has been installed, you're going to have an icon on your desktop or on your quick start menu that looks like this, and then just click it to open up Unity Hub. Now, obviously my Unity Hub is going to look a little bit different to yours if this is the first time you've installed the hub, because I open it up on the projects page, and those are all of the projects that I am currently working on. But if you haven't got any projects currently set up through Unity Hub, then this will be empty. In fact, if you haven't got Unity installed on your computer, when you install Unity Hub, I believe it will actually default to the Installs tab, which shows you all of the versions of Unity that are currently stored on your system. And you won't have any. So what you'll have is a message saying something like, there are no versions of Unity installed on this computer. And in order to do that, you click the Add button to add one. Now, as you can see, I've got 2021.1, 2019, 2018.4, 2018.3, 3 versions of Unity 5. Because I work on a vast array of projects, and I'm also maintaining some really old projects. You won't have any installed, so in order to do that, you need to go and click the Add button when you're in the Installs page. So click the Add button, and what you'll see is this little dialog pop up, and you'll notice that, first of all, what it will do is it will recommend to you as the version to install, normally a version of Unity that is slightly behind the most recent version of Unity. For example, we know that Unity is now currently available in 2021.2, but this is classed as a pre-release. In other words, when Unity is not in its LTS form, it basically means it's still having sort of bug reports issued and it's still being fixed. But even, for example, once we're in 2021.2, the long-term support versions of previous versions of Unity are still being worked on. So any bug fixes that come in, even for 2019, they will still fix those up. Same for 2018. Now, like I said in the last video, I would highly recommend that you install Unity 2018.4, the long-term support version. Now, it's not giving me that option because I've already got it installed. That's why it's grayed out. But what I've done on the Game Institute website is, because at the time of kind of recording this, Unity was in 2021, all of the projects I've upgraded. So if you go to the projects channel now, which is where we download the project sources for this course from, you'll see that there is a 2021 folder and a 2018 folder. So if you do ignore me and still go and install the latest version of Unity and are determined to follow the Dead Earth course in that version of Unity, then there is a 2021 version of the project that you can use. But like I said, I would highly recommend 2018.4. It's the version of the editor that I'm using, certainly in the last 2/3 of the course, and most of the videos are going to be using exactly that version. And also, it's just more performant. I mean, there's just no way for me to sugarcoat that. It's like, if you want to get the best performance out of the Dead Earth codebase, then 2018 is going to give you better performance than 2021. So what I would recommend is you click 2018.4, click Next, and then it will automatically install that into your installs page in the Unity Hub. Now, you'll also notice that I said you could install older versions of Unity, but in this little dialog here, it only goes back as far as 2018. What happens if you want to install 2017, or let's say you want to install Unity 5 or Unity 3 even? Well, in order to do that, you go to the Download Archive link here at the top of this dialog. When you click that, it will open up a browser, it'll take you to the website, and you can choose which very specific version of Unity you wish to download. So you can see if I select, I don't know, like 2017, it lists all of the 2017 versions that were ever released. And fortunately, because it's got this little green button by the side of it, you can just click that and it will install that version in Unity Hub as well. So let's say I wanted to go to Unity 5 and I wanted to install 5.6.7. I would click the Unity Hub button, allow Unity Hub access to my computer, and then it will open up a dialog which allows you to choose which parts of the install you wish to have installed. So if you don't want to bother with documentation, you can save yourself 300 megabytes of download, 479 megabytes of install size. Normally you want to install the standard assets, like I said, but because you're following along with me, don't do that, because I'm going to provide standard assets for you anyway. And you can choose as well which platforms you wish to support building to. I'm not interested in WebGL, so I could save myself a bit of time here. If I did indeed wish to install this version of Unity, then I would just hit the install button. But it's not quite as simple as that if you want to go back a little bit earlier. You kind of have to go back to the days before Unity Hub. Like, say, for example, I wish to install Unity, let's say 3.5.7. You'll notice at this point, we're no longer being given the green button. This is true for Unity 4 as well. So you can actually automatically install these through Unity Hub. So if you did want to install Unity 3.5.7, what you need to do, you would have to download the Unity editor, and then you would install that just like you would any other standalone program. But you need to be careful when you do that. Obviously, that installation procedure doesn't know anything about Unity Hub, and it will ask you the location on your hard drive where you wish to install that version of Unity. Just make sure you install it in a unique location that doesn't conflict or overwrite any of the previous versions of Unity. Shouldn't be a problem, but just something to look out for. So once you've got a version of Unity, like one of these really old versions of Unity, or if you have Unity already installed on your hard drive before you installed Unity Hub, then Unity Hub is not going to know about any of those things. So let's say we have Unity 3 installed on our hard drive. How do we let Unity Hub know about it? And when that's the case, we go back to the installs page, and instead of clicking the add button, which we did to install the older version of Unity, what we do is we hit the locate button and we literally just browse to the location on our hard drive. So I could browse to, let's say, Unity 5.0.2, and you just want to select this folder, drill down into the editor folder and select the executable unity.exe. And once you've done that and you click OK, that version of Unity will then show up in the installs page of the Unity Hub. Okay, so we've now seen how to install some of the more recent versions of Unity, but we've also seen how to install and add to the Hub older versions of Unity, or versions of Unity that might already exist on your computer prior to you installing Unity Hub. So once you have 2018.4 installed, the other page you need to look at is the projects page, which is going to be where all of the projects that you open up via Unity Hub are going to be managed. And what's really important about this and really cool is that you can see that each version of my project here, I can assign to it the installed version of Unity that I wish that project to open with. When you come here, if you've just installed Unity Hub, you're not going to have any projects here. So of course, one way to put a project here is to create a new one, which is what we're going to do in a minute by going to the new button. And then when we click the new button, we can choose which version of Unity we wish to create this project for. And we're going to choose 2018, but we won't do that just yet because I want to show you how to browse to a project that is already on your hard drive and you wish to add it to Unity Hub. In that case, just click the add button and you literally just browse to the folder that contains that project. So I think I've got a project called something like assets import test. I'm just selecting the folder that contains the Unity project. Select that, click OK, and you can now see it's been added to the Hub, and it's automatically recognized that this should be opened up with 2018.3.4, which is installed on my computer. So how did Unity Hub know that? Well, it's pretty useful to learn this information, because let's say, for example, you download a project that's in an older version of Unity and you don't know which one it is. Well, Unity Hub can only automatically assign the version to it if that version is installed in Unity Hub. So if you download a project that, let's say, is for Unity 4.3, but you don't have 4.3 version of Unity installed on your computer, the Hub isn't going to be able to make that connection. So you would need to find out which version of Unity it needed and install that version of Unity first. And you can open up any Unity project, open up the project settings folder, and there's a text file in there called project version. Open that up and it shows you that this particular project was last opened in 2018.3.4. So that's how you find out in advance which version of Unity a project expects to be opened in. We are going to create a new project, and I'm going to go to the new button and I'm going to pull this little drop down, and I'm going to recommend that the new Dead Earth project we're going to create is created in 2018.4. So if you're creating a 2D game, you want to select 2D. If you're creating a 3D game using Unity's built-in pipeline, you want to select 3D. If you want to kind of create one using the new scriptable render pipeline, you could choose that here, but in 2018 they were still in preview. They're out of preview now, but they're still quite experimental in my opinion, and there's still a lot of stuff that isn't implemented for them. So Dead Earth has been made with Unity's built-in pipeline, which is very stable and has been around for quite some time. I'm going to create this on my desktop. Now, I don't normally create all my projects on my desktop, but when I'm doing tutorials, it makes it much easier for me to do that. And I'm going to call this new project Dead Earth Student Project, and I suggest you do the same. Then I'm going to hit the create button, and we'll have to wait a minute or so while that project is being created. I'll pause the video while it's doing that. Once the new project has been created, you will find yourself in Unity. Here I'm in Unity 2018.4, and your layout will look something like this. If you've used Unity before, the windows may be moved to how you had them arranged the last time that you opened Unity, but I've actually put these in the default layout for now, which, by the way, isn't the layout that I actually like to use. And you'll see as I progress through the lessons, I like to move these windows about a little bit, like maybe put the console window over there and maybe move the game window down here. here. Kind of how I like to do it most of the time, so that I can at times have the scene view and the game view active at the same time. Now, when you create a new project in 2018, you will be in a very empty scene called the sample scene. It's just got a main camera in it and a directional light. You'll see it's created this in the assets folder in a subfolder called scenes. We're going to be deleting this later anyway, but we don't have to worry about it for now, because all we're really going to be doing in this lesson is just importing some assets. And of course, the project view is where we see all of the assets that have been imported. Like I said, apart from that scene that Unity has created for us and some of the default packages that have been imported, there is nothing in our assets folder except that. So one of the things that we're going to want to do, first of all, is bring in the standard assets. Now, before 2018, you used to bring in the standard assets by going to the assets menu and choosing import package. And what you used to see here is a series of options. So you would see things like characters or prototyping tools or utility scripts or cameras. And it was basically all of the standard assets had been broken up into subcategories. So you could just bring in the utility scripts or bring in the first person character controller and things like that. But now they're all gone. You can import them via this means in 2018 and all versions after that. And all you see here instead is the option to import a custom package. That's useful too, because you'll often want to create your own packages for exporting from maybe one project and importing to another. And there'll be lots of times throughout this course where you would download packages that I have prepared for you from the resources area, and that will allow me to kind of give you textures, sounds and things like that, and you can bring them in easily into your Unity project and have them all pre-configured how I set them up. But we can no longer import the standard assets this way in 2018 plus. So there's two ways that you can do this. Now, if you're in 2018, you can still go to the Window tab, make sure that the Asset Store window is open, and you can browse the Asset Store from here, and you can search for Unity standard assets and bring them in that way, right? But in later versions of Unity, for example, in 2021, I just tested it, and when you open up the Asset Store window, it now just tells you to basically open up the Asset Store in a web browser. They're kind of discontinuing this Asset Store window as a kind of built-in browser, so we'll do it this way instead. So I said earlier that there is a version of Unity standard assets that you can download from the Unity Asset Store. So let's go to the Asset Store. You can get there by going to assetstore.unity.com, and if we type in standard assets, you can see there's a standard assets package here that is created by Unity Technologies. That's the one we want. And you'll see that when I click on that page and go into it, it says for Unity 2018.4. So technically, if we're in 2018.4, we could use this package if we wanted to. However, they're no longer upgrading it. And if you import this package into anything other than 2018, it's going to create scripting errors. Like it doesn't work in 2021. Hopefully, there's been so much kickback about standard assets being discontinued that Unity will do a reversal on this, and they'll keep the standard assets up to date with later versions of Unity. So if you're using 2018, you could import this if you wanted to, but if you're using anything later than 2018.4, then you can. I recommend that you don't use these standard assets at all, because what I did was downloaded these and I fixed them up and I removed all of the old stuff that was causing problems in the later versions of Unity. So I've got a version of this standard assets pack which will work just fine in 2018, but will also work in 2019, 2020 and 2021, and will probably continue to work in later versions when they're released. But if not, I will keep on top of that and keep updating it. So let's shut down the asset store, and instead I'm going to show you where you can get the standard assets that I think you should use for this course. So here I am on the Game Institute website in the Dead Earth channel. Go to the resources link here, and you'll notice there is a lesson 2 resources.zip called standard assets. So click on that, it will take you down to the download link here, lesson 2 resources zip, and when you click on that, it will start downloading the zip file. Now, once you've downloaded that zip file, just choose to extract the files. I'm using WinRAR here to extract it, but you could just open it up. I'm just using the built-in operating system's zip file management. Once I've extracted it, it's created a folder on my desktop with the same name as the zip file. Open that up, and in there you will see the Unity package that I've prepared for you with the fixed up standard assets. It's called GI standard assets.unity package. Now, there's two ways that you can bring this into your Unity project. You could go to the assets, you could go to import package, and you could browse to the location on your desktop where that is. So it would be like here. I could click on that and open it, and that would import it. Or perhaps easier still, you literally can just from your desktop drag it into the project window like so. And that's going to open up a little dialog in a minute showing me all of the assets that are in there, and I'm just going to import them all into my project. And this will take a little while. So I'll pause the video while it's doing this. So there you go. After the import of the standard assets, we have a new folder in our project view. Remember, before we just had scenes. Now we have an editor folder and we have a standard assets folder. And in the standard assets folder, you can see all the subfolders that used to be separate menu items on the import package menu, when you could just choose to import characters or fonts or particles and things like that. That's no longer there. Like I said, I've imported them all together. So you've got all of the standard assets you need for this course. Now, the reason why it's important that I mention that is because you're going to see in the next lesson, or should I say from the next lesson on, you're going to see me using earlier versions of Unity for the first part of the course. I think I start off in Unity 5.3 or something like that. Now, the interface is almost identical, but the only thing that's slightly different is in the original lesson 2, this is lesson 2, but this is a re-record of it. I'm updating it. All we imported in here was the prototyping tools, I think, and the utility scripts. And then later on, you will see me bring in the characters from the standard assets. And I would go here to assets, import package, and I would choose characters. You can just ignore all that now because you've got all of the standard assets, including the characters, already in your project. So whenever I talk about bringing in standard assets, you don't have to worry about that. You've already got them from this point on. Now, what I am going to do is in the bottom of my project view, I don't like the big folders here, so I'm going to make this little slider bar go all the way to the left, so my right hand view in the project window kind of looks like this. And you can see if I open up the characters folder, you can see there's a first person character controller, a third person character controller. In fact, let's just check that this actually works. So what I'm going to do in the main scene is I will create a new, let's create just a cube, okay, and I'll make it really big. So I'll scale it up on X and Y, maybe 100, like so. Oh, not Y, sorry, on X and Z. I'll scale it up 100, like so. Yeah, and then what I'll do is I will drill down into the FPS person character folder in standard assets, drill down into the prefabs folder. Remember, in Unity, prefabs are a way of setting up an object in the scene with like lots of different scripts and settings and that, and then saving that off as a kind of template so that whenever you wish to drag that into another scene, it goes in fully configured. And we're going to be creating lots of prefabs throughout this course. They're an absolute godsend in Unity. So let me take this FPS controller, drag it into the scene like so. Let's just zoom in on it. Everything's a bit white, the lighting's all a bit crap, so it's hard to see what's going on at the moment, but I just want to make sure this actually works. Yeah, it looks like it does. You can see all the scripts on there. And then if I press play, I think this cube's got a collider on it. Yes, it has a box collider on it. Let's press play and see if we're able to just immediately walk around on that cube. And you can see, although it's hard to see because it's kind of like a white cube on with a pretty white horizon, you can see I'm actually walking around here. And I don't know at the moment whether I'm actually recording system sound, but there's also some footsteps being played. Of course, what we would want to do if we added the FPS controller to the scene, which includes its own camera, is we'd want to get rid of the main camera, which is why we're getting this little error here that's telling us there are 2 audio listeners in the scene because cameras have audio listeners on them. That's basically the thing that allows us to hear any sounds that are being played. And because we've got a main camera that was in the scene by default, and we have this FPS controller in the scene, which has, if I draw down, its own camera on it, here you can see, with an audio listener on it. We've got 2 audio listeners in the scene, and Unity is complaining it's a little bit confused, but I just wanted to show you how you could just very easily test that the FPS controller is working. And there's lots of scripts in here as well, like kind of like really simple utility scripts that just save you having to reinvent the wheel. One of the folders that also got created was an editor folder. Now you're going to see as we work our way through this course, a folder in Unity called editor with a capital E takes on a very special purpose. Scripts that are put in there basically compiled and used as editor scripts. So they won't actually be compiled in your final game, but you use them to put scripts in there that allow you to expand the usefulness of the editor. So you're going to see quite early on, one of the first editor scripts that we create is going to be like a script that allows us to place waypoints, and in the scene view it will draw lines between all the waypoints so we can see the paths that can be plotted and followed by our AI agents. Another thing that's worth bearing in mind is that you can create lots of folders called editor with a capital E, and Unity will see all of those folders as essentially being one folder. Okay, so we could create an editor script, but we could put it in, let's say, a subfolder of a Dead Earth folder that we're going to create in a minute, and we could put our editor scripts in there to keep them separate from these editor scripts here that were added by the standard assets. So as long as you put your editor scripts in a folder that is called editor with a capital E, they will function correctly. As a direct child of the assets folder, I like to create my own folder called Dead Earth, and everything that I create will be a subfolder underneath the Dead Earth folder. So for example, if I want to create my own editor scripts, then I'm going to select the Dead Earth folder and create a subfolder in there and call that editor. Like I said, I know I've already got an editor folder in the root assets folder, but I want another editor folder in the Dead Earth folder where I'm going to put all of my scripts that are editor scripts so that I know those are the ones that I've written specifically for Dead Earth. I'm also going to do the same. I'm going to create a textures folder where I'm going to store all of my textures. I'm going to create a materials folder. I'm going to create a folder where I'm going to store all of my scripts. I'll call that scripts. I'm going to create another one for storing sound effects and sounds. And I'll create another one called prefabs because we're going to be creating a lot of prefabs. This is just to get us started. We're going to be creating a lot more folders than that, believe me. And then we know that anything in the root is either stuff that Unity has installed from its own package manager or just third-party stuff that we've imported. Okay, so I think that's all we're going to do for this lesson. We've got the standard assets in there that we need. We've got the correct version of Unity installed that we wish to use going forward. And we've got a basic folder hierarchy set up to get us started. Okay, so in the next lesson, we're going to really examine how AI in a game can navigate a clear path from one location to another. And then we're going to start building our AI, which, given the fact that this is a zombie horror game, the AI is going to be quite important. So we're going to spend quite a long time doing that. Thanks for lending me your ears, guys. I will see you in lesson 3.